So, you have been a writer, you've been an activist, but I think something that you mentioned to me maybe about a year and a half ago, you like the business of it, the mergers and the acquisitions, and helping companies find their sweet spot of success. Tell me a little bit about how you've consulted companies.
Well, first of all, if a company wants to do, ordinary things that people do, like let's say a company says, oh, well, we want to grow, and things, and we want you to help set up the whole thing. I'm not the right person for that, but I'm a strategist, and what I do is help with the strategy as well of where you want to position yourself, and to really question that, to help determine what people really want to do, and then to look at realistically how to achieve that goal. So it's and then developing a system to meet that, and that's when the cultivation comes in sometimes.
Yeah, because it all comes down to the
plant. There was a company that was going to grow, and there was a company that wanted to grow, but what they were really interested in is producing cookies from really pure marijuana, and they really weren't interested in growing. It was just something that they would have to do to produce those cookies. And instead, my advice to them was not to grow because you're not interested in it, and instead either find a partner or a vendor. And they found this vendor that they eventually invested in as well, that was producing the cannabis that they needed. So there they never even got into growing. But then they tried to zero in, you've witnessed how I tried to zero in and really determine what the goals and strategies, and helping with that. And I have a very clear idea of how to increase efficiency in commercial gardens. And basically, to put it broadly, it's that I want the plants to spend a much higher. So that puts it in one sentence.
Okay. So, again, like I said before, you are a prolific writer. How many books have you written in your career?
It's I don't know. After a while, it adds up. If you die young, you don't write that many books. So I've had the opportunity to continue writing.
So I know you did Beyond Buds, Ask Ed. And your pictures of big buds too. Those are great books.
Yeah. Well, we have the Big Book of Buds series. There were 4 books in the series, and then a greatest compilation. Those were a good series of books.
And so if anybody wanted to get those books, you do have a website, right?
Oh, yeah, they could just go on edrosenthal.com and go in a lot of different directions. I have a website and Instagram, all kinds of stuff.
And so if right now, and then again, we're going to look at your new book coming out in 2021, correct?
Yes, yeah. And that book, as I said, it's, you know, when I wrote the last book, I had help from a few people,
Yes.
but the field of cultivation hadn't segmented and gotten uh, uh, much more both intense and knowledge. There was more knowledge and there were more tools and the gardens are bigger. So what I felt that rewriting that book by myself it would be, there's no way that one person could gather all that information by themselves. So I enlisted a team, and the first person I enlisted to help was Angela Baca, who had worked with me on the last edition of it, and who's a writer who has stayed in the cannabis area. And she's also an activist. She knows a lot about cultivation. So she was the ideal project manager. And Rob Flaherty, who has a PhD in botany and who earns a living growing marijuana. So I chose him as co-author, and he agreed. And so he's helping with it. And then we have enlisted the help for individual chapters of professors, people who are in the industry, and researchers from all over the world to help write the book. And so it's this big collaboration, and it's much, much better than any one person could do.
I'm sure a lot of people are going to look forward to that. Yes.
Founded by former NFL All-Pro Kyle Turley, NeuroXPF is a sports supplement company specializing in the medicinal benefits of cannabinoids. NeuroXPF makes and sells a full line of high-quality, certified organic, hemp-derived CBD products. All NeuroXPF products are THC-free. They use a special CO2 extracting process to isolate the CBD, working hard to preserve the terpenes in order to modulate the effects of their hemp-derived CBD. This adds that little extra punch to NeuroXPF products so they taste better and provide some beneficial qualities. To learn more about and purchase the NeuroXPF's products, please visit their website at neuroxpf.com. For more information about their current investment opportunity, please visit the Wrazel investment marketplace at wrazel.com.
So looking at you've actually been able to smoke with a lot of people throughout the years. Is there anybody who you would, past, present, that you would like to actually sit down and smoke with that you haven't been able to?
Well, there are two reasons why you might want to smoke with a person, or might want to. Well, I could divide this up. There are
Okay.
people that you just enjoy being with, and so you like to smoke with them. Like, for instance, yourself.
I
We
like to
always have a
smoke
good
with
time
you.
when we're together, and we like to smoke together. So you know, so it's wonderful to do that and to smoke, with friends. And then there's another group that, how marijuana can bring people together, that you
Yes.
might have people who are totally different people and don't have much in common, but can still share a certain amount of camaraderie and a certain amount of just warmth and transfer of love, and then you might just go your separate lives and never see them again. But in some way, you'll always be connected. And then there are people who say, if they smoked some dope, if they smoked some pot and got high and broke those sets and set perceptions that they've been so rigid about, that it would open up a whole different world for them. And like that doesn't happen very often, because the people that you would want to do that with, most of them have already done it. So, but there are a certain amount of people, like political people, that that you would want to do it with, perhaps. And I'll give you an example. Like, you know, how old is Biden? 77? Is he 77? Is that it? I think
I'm not
so.
quite sure.
So, thing about Biden. But the thing about Biden is something that I experienced. See, I was right at the cusp of the hippie breakout of the 60s. You know, when people take the 67, not the 60s that we talk about. And I was right at the cusp because I was older than a lot of the people who were in college. I was a few years older, but I had dropped out and then gone back. So I was in this when the wave swept college campuses and swept America, and Life magazine had, I'll show you what Life magazine had.
Okay. So this is Life magazine. Yes. Yes. What year was that?
This was October 31st, Halloween Eve, 1969.
1969. That's classic.
Yeah. So when the wave swept, I'll be right back.
Okay.
So when the wave swept, people who, my brother was just a few years older than me, but he had graduated college and gotten married before the wave swept. And so he never experienced that whole, hippie revolution, Woodstock type thing, that whole change of behavior. He didn't get to experience it. And so there was this cliff between people who were just a few years different. Either they were the old way or the new way. Electric Kool-Aid, acid test, things like that, all that stuff. So they never experienced that. And so that people who were just a few years apart, either they were in the older generation or the newer generation. And so luckily I went back to college and got hippified. So anyway, that's
Thank you for sharing that.
and had I not gone back to school, I might not have had that experience. So the first time I smoked a joint, I realized that this was going, there was this author, Carlos Castaneda, who wrote the Don Juan
Yes.
books. And
Yes.
it was about this person's experience with a shaman from the Southwest. And this shaman had a little smoke, which was his ally. And the first time I smoked marijuana, I realized this was his ally. And it quickly became my ally.
How old were you at that time?
21.
21. So, well, I guess you were in college and everything, so I started a little bit younger.
21, yeah. Yeah, well, this was, I started at sort of the beginning of it in New York, a little bit, not the absolute beginning, but, towards the beginning of it in New York. But, it wasn't happening. It hadn't broken out where I would be related to it until until 66, 65, 66.
And could you have ever imagined at that time where we would be here now at 2020 and have states with legal access and big industry? I didn't dream far enough to see where we would be at today, because we definitely have come from the legacy market.
You know, at that time I remember that I had an apartment, and I had a few people over, and we all speculated on how long it would take for marijuana to become legal. And, you know, this was in 67. And so some people said 5 years, some people said 10 years. And this one person said 20 years. And they said, well, why so long? And he said, well, by that time, we'll be in positions of authority and we'll be able to change it. And that would have made it 1987. And so he was only off by maybe 25 years or 30 years. So, and it's
But
not
we made it.
legal in most states now. You know, we're talking about as if it's legal.
Yeah.
It's only legal totally legal in 17 states. And in some states where it's legal, you can buy it, but you can't grow it. What does that
it's
mean?
crazy.
You know,
And that's why I want to see it
first
deschedulized.
initiative happened, when the first initiative happened in 1972, the slogan was free, legal, backyard marijuana. And so a lot of people they're allowed to use it, but they're not allowed to grow it. It's just outrageous that, you know, something so natural should be so restricted. So, and
it's a simple plant.
You know, because it's legal in California, Californians think it's legal all over, but they'd be surprised if they looked at a map of the country and saw what was what.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that I have lived this long to see this happening now. But I really look towards the future when it is legal across the United States and deschedulized, and so that everybody can have access, like a lot of international countries have embraced that. And I just feel really blessed that, you know, I can call you my friend, and we can enjoy music together and a good smoke every now and then when we get to see each other. And I'm just very, very grateful that you're with us here today, Ed. And again, if anybody wants to get a hold of Ed, they can just look up Ed Rosenthal and see all his books. And we're all going to look forward to 2021 and your new book coming out too.
Medicus L.P. was created after their team discovered that very few avenues existed for investment in professionally managed public equity funds. As a result, they created a long-biased limited partnership, Medicus, for accredited individuals and organizations that will invest in public exchange-traded companies in the cannabis space. Investor net asset values are calculated on a monthly basis by their administrator, Klein Fund Services, and audited annually by Spicer Jeffries. This provides full transparency for investors. Their prime broker is BTIG and custodian is Pershing. Medicus started investing in January 2020. To learn more about Medicus, please visit their website at medicuslp.com. And for more information about their current investment opportunity, please visit the Wrazel investment marketplace at wrazel.com.
So, anything else you'd like to share with anyone here with a seasoned perspective, Ed?
Well, you know that Steve D'Angelo and I have been activists together for many years,
Yes.
going back 30 years or more. And Steve has a project going on called the Last Prisoner Project, LPP, and that is that, look, people are allowed to sell it, and still some people are in prison, sometimes for long terms.
For life.
You know, just because on marijuana charges. And so he's trying to, the organization that he's gotten involved with is trying to do, to change that. And so you could just look up Last Prisoner Project. I think it's an excellent, excellent project. Nobody should be in prison for marijuana. And while you're enjoying the joint, you should have concern that people who are just doing the same thing are in prison for it. So please check out Last Prisoner Project.
And last week for the Last Prisoner Project, I called the Parole Board of Michigan and the governor, and I wrote letters regarding Michael Thompson, who is 67 years old and been in prison for 25 years. And he still has more time on his sentence. And he was nonviolent possession. And now he has diabetes and he has COVID. And we need to see if Michael can get clemency and be released. And so any of you out there, please look up Last Prisoner Project and try and support these people who are in prison for just a simple plant. And many of those people are people of color and Hispanic. And it has disparaged that community so much for how many people are in prison for simple possession. So thank you for bringing that up, Ed. And again, I want to thank you so much for being with us here today on Wrazel Cannabis Broadcasting Network. It's an honor and it's a privilege, and I just can't wait to see you again when it's safer, and we'll probably have to just smoke our own joints at that time, but I'm looking forward to that day. Thank you once again, Ed Rosenthal, and his new book coming out in 2021. I hope to see you soon.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you.
It was such a pleasure.
It's my honor. And I know that we both hope that patients can find their place with this good medicine, that it will help them have a much more healthier and enriching life. Thank you again.
Yes. Bye.